that COVID-19 text you got may be false.
Hey, John, I understand you're looking at something with new Android malware that's trying to do some COVID-19 based alerts or something like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting, we always say, be careful when you get a weird text message, especially a weird text message from somebody you don't know. Or even if somebody you do know, because it's, we know in this business how easy it is sometimes just to fake a source. And so we have this brand new, and that's maybe a little bit of a stretch, but we have a new instance of a product called Tanglebot, that what it does is it sends an SMS, or I shouldn't say it sends it, but the attacker sends the victim an SMS that pretends or attests to being a COVID-19 information source, whether it be like the National Health Service in the UK, or be the US FDA, anything that in those natures, are getting sent and saying to people, we have new information, or you have an instance of COVID-19 exposure, just something to trigger that response that we all, I think, have nowadays, and to click here, right, or to use this link to find out more. And just based on that, that fingerprint of that whole attack stream, we all know, don't do that, right? Don't click those links. But people do. And when they do, they're getting this little message that says, you need to update your Flash player to access this information and to do further actions to perform that Flash player installation. Flash player is pretty much deprecated at this juncture. I mean, we shouldn't be doing it at all. But people still do it. You're used to doing it. And once you click that Flash player, or bring up that Flash player, now it's going to install this Tanglebot malware onto the device. And that malware has this whole long stream of things that it can do once it gets on there. I mean, it's going to ask you for some permissions. It's going to take some of them, but it's also just going to ask you. And people give it. It always frustrates me that, if you get a pop-up, that says, you need to allow this or do this, people do it. I mean, it's human nature, because you want that product to work. And, you trust the device, or you trust the source, whether you should or not. The malware itself then turns around and can do so much. I mean, it's really kind of ugly. It can make and block phone calls from the device. It can send or just extract text messages and send them places. It can do recordings. If you think about it, it can activate the camera. And, you think about your phone, you don't always know your camera is active. So it'll activate that camera and microphone and actually stream that basically back to the attacker. So everything that you're seeing or doing, and you may not realize that, you're sitting here talking on a call or whatever, and that's actually totally being captured and sent to someone else. The one that kind of also scares me is overlays. I think we've talked on this show before, or at least I think I have, that overlays are challenging because it looks like a real application. So you're pushing buttons like, hey, I want to go to my bank, and here's my PIN. It can pretend to be that. I mean, the sky's the limit, unfortunately, with this particular piece of malware. And so, I guess you got lots of different variations of this, but Tanglebot is just really, I think, something that we all need to be cognizant of, that when we get, like I said earlier, you get those strange texts, you get those strange, messages to install software, just don't do it. I mean, that's what it basically boils down to is don't trust anything that's suspicious, don't trust anything you don't know, and, and just kind of keep an eye out, for things you're not expecting.
So it's basically full-fledged spyware once it's on your phone, right? I mean, it sounds like it can do everything. Listen to what's going on, see all the chatter on your phone, SMS or phone calls you make, et cetera.
Yeah, the only thing I don't think it's doing is I don't think it's rooting the device. I think everything else is wide game, open game there, because it's got complete control.
And then So once it's on the phone, is it using that phone to further propagate by sending SMS lures to new victims, like maybe in that person's contact list or whatever?
I would expect it to. I don't think I've necessarily seen that documented, but to be honest, it would surprise me if it wasn't. I mean, why wouldn't you? That's really what it was.
So did they, in the article, did they have to mention any kind of C2 infrastructure that, you could look for or track to find out like how many victims might be, compromised with this Tanglebot malware?
And that's a really good question. They don't explicitly mention that. I can't imagine they wouldn't. I mean, it's kind of very similar to like FluBot. So you can start figuring out your command and controls. I didn't see it explicitly mentioned at least not in the CloudMark article. I bet you could, because I can't imagine that this is being hosted on too many, malicious depots. But yeah, I did not see that mentioned. That's a very good question, John.
Okay. Well, I'll take that as a note, as a little action item to go follow up on this afternoon.
Okay. In your spare time.
Yeah.
And if you get one of these suspicious, spam SMS messages, what should a user do?
There's a lot of instructions. I know we have some instructions on our website on what to do, but the key thing to remember is you need to forward the message. Don't reply to it. Heavens, no. You need to forward the message. And there's a lot of, depending on if it's your Android or Apple, how you forward it can be different mechanisms. For example, on an Apple, you push and hold the message. Don't click push the link, just push and hold the message. And then you go to a more option, and then there's a forward arrow, and you forward it to a number called 7726. And if you can't remember 7726, remember that it spells spam, S-P-A-M. And then you send that message. And it doesn't matter what carrier you're using. It doesn't matter if you're us, or any other ones that are out there. That 7726 is ubiquitous. And the next response that'll come back to you is saying what number called you with this. Now, so there's some caveats there, but typically if you've copied that or can write down who's called you, then you send that number, and then what will happen is that gets loaded into broad databases, and typically utilizing things like Stir and Shaken, it'll get shared out and hopefully, get blocked at some juncture from further attacks against you or further attacks against your friends and family.